Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Today, excuse me. Today, I want to show you how I made a really pretty, at least I think it's a really pretty, double gatefold card using a combination of the New Horizons or On the Horizon stamp set and the Oceanfront stamp set. These two stamp sets go so well together. They're not in the same bundle. They're not in the same suite, but they definitely coordinate really well together. And I really like the way that I created this double gatefold card. It's almost like a picture that is painted, except with stamps and ink, and then it's cut to make the double gatefold. All right, I'm going to switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. All right. So here's the two stamp sets that I've used. This is the On the Horizon. This comes in a beautiful suite of products, great sentiments, and then the dies are amazing with this one. I'm using these two. I've already cut them out. This is one of the dies that there's these little gates with them. There's mountains, there's trees. But for this one, I'm using this stamp as well as these gates from the dies. And then for this one, there's all sorts of kind of blotches that will create this great scene, as well as the plants, and these are boulders or stones. So they just coordinate so well together. Now, let me bring in the card. So this is the card that I made. So it is a double gatefold with a belly band on it. And you can see my belly band actually has the gates, and it has these little pebbles that are embellishments. This comes off. And then this is the scene I painted with the ink and stamps. And then it opens up. So that's the double gatefold. So let me show you how I made this. So first of all, I'm using thick thick basic white cardstock. I haven't said that in a while. Thick basic white cardstock. And so this is cut 5.5 by 8.5. And so if you miss any of the measurements, they will be on my blog. And I will put the link to my blog underneath this video. So 5.5 by 8.5. And I have scored it at 2 1/8 from each end. So it's actually, I think, 2 1/8. And if I measure this, I believe it's 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. I always just find it easier to score it 2 1/8 and then turn it and score it 2 1/8. Now on this one, I always tell you to score it and then fold into the mountain, which is the raised side. On this one, I find it actually works better to fold on the same way that you scored. So this is the indent inside. So I'm actually going to fold on that. And for some reason, when I do it this way, my gatefold lines up much better than when I fold into the mountain. So this is the kind of exception to the rule. I always fold into the mountain on it. And this one, you can see now my gatefold lines up nicely. But if I fold into the mountain, it seems to overlap a bit. So now I've just taken my bone folder and gave those two score lines a good burnish. So that's my gatefold. Now I've got two pieces of pool party here, and these are cut. Let's see, is that right? Sorry, I have to measure this. So I've got these. So these are cut 2 inches, yes, 2 inches by 5 3/8. I'm going to have to trim these. That's why I was thinking that was wrong. So I've got two pieces that are 2 inches by 5 3/8. And then I have a piece of basic white that is cut 3 3/4 by 5. And I'll show you what we do with this. We're going to actually stamp this, and then we're going to cut it. So first, let me trim my pieces. These ones might be the right size. So let's make sure I've got the pool party pieces the right size to start with. So these need to be, what did I say, 5 3/8, that's right. And by, so 2 inches. Let's just trim these ones. 2 inches by 5 3/8. All right, they were just a little bit too wide. So again, all of the measurements will be on my blog post. All right, I've got those trimmed. So again, 2 pieces of Pool Party, 2 inches by 5 3/8. And then we've got our piece of basic white that is cut 3 3/4 by 5. Sorry, 2 3/4. Jeez. 2 3/4. Getting myself all mixed up, by 5 1/4. There we go. So eventually this will fit on here with just a little peekaboo of the Pool Party showing. So again, 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. Now, the inks that you're going to need for this, to create that scene, I've used Pool Party, Pear Pizzazz, and Crumb Cake. And then my plants along the side are done in Old Olive, and the birds are done in Tuxedo Black Memento. So colors here, you can change these up for sure. But let's start with our Pool Party. And for this one, we're using the stamps from the Oceanfront. So if I bring that back in, so we're using stamps from this. So this is, top one is going to create our kind of sky. This is going to create the green, looking like it's maybe a marsh or some grass in behind. And then this is going to be the crumb cake. So that's the ones that I'm using to create the scene. So we'll just ink up this one in Pool Party. I don't know that there's a right way and a wrong way to do this, but I'm going to do it that way. And about, say, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from the top of your piece of basic white. It is, I think it's a distinctive stamp. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but it stamps like it's distinctive, which means that it just gives you such great detail. And then this is going to be done in the Pear Pizzazz, and we're stamping this one so that the straight edge lines up. It is Pear Pizzazz, right? Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't get Old Olive. Lines up, you can overlap a little bit with the line there. And then the last image is this one that's kind of an odd shape, and we're going to stamp this one in Crumb Cake. And again, I'm going to take and do the straight edge along this kind of diagonal edge. And it's okay to overlap a little bit. It just gives you a little bit of a darker line, and that way you get kind of your scene. Sky, grass, and then some soil. Okay, now it's time to bring in your Old Olive along with your plants. So I've used this plant and I've stamped off to the side here because this is going to show up. We're going to cut this in half basically. So I've just kind of lined these like that, just a little bit off center. Then I'm using this one. You could stamp off if you wanted to. I decided I wanted the darker one. I think I did it like this. I'm overlapped here like that. And then this one is from the On the Horizon. So we'll just add some of those in. And I've used Crumb Cake on that just to be a little bit different. And we're just going to stamp this one along the bottom like that. And then the last thing we do for the front are these great birds. So again, this is from, excuse me, the new On the Horizon. So I'm just going to take this. I think there's a right way and a wrong way. I don't know that for sure. Yeah, I think there is a right way and a wrong way so that the birds look like they're not flying upside down. So I'm going to start just a little bit lower here. Sorry about that. I've got a frog this morning. All right, and I'm stamping the birds, and then I'm going to go just a little bit higher here so that the birds kind of are going upwards across our card. Okay, we've got our piece. Now, what we're going to do is cut this in half. So this is 3 3¾ by 5¼ So we want to cut this at 1 7/8, which is half. So now we've got 2 pieces that fit together that will now fit on these pieces of pool party. You're just going to get just a little sneak of the pool party behind it. So we get our glue. You can use whatever glue is your favorite. I'm into the multi-purpose glue at the moment. So we'll just adhere that. It gives me just a little bit of wiggle room in case I don't get this on very straight when I put it down. Okay, there we go. And that adheres to that. Okay, so now we can bring in our base, and these pieces now adhere to the fronts, and just make sure you get them going the right way and on the right sides. I have been known to do that, so we want to make sure that this one is our left side, and it's because it's going to line up with the other side. Just such a pretty card. I love these 2 stamp sets together. They just match perfectly together. Right. There we go. So there's our front of our card. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a gatefold. Let's get my other pieces here. Okay, so for the gatefold, I was going to use cardstock, but I decided it really covered up some of the image behind, and I didn't want that. So this is a piece of the layering vellum, which it's part of the Symbols of Fortune suite. And so I've cut a piece that is 1 inch by 12 inches, and it's wider than I need. So I am just going to take this and put it behind. I always do the seam on the front. It's going to be covered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And it's, as I said, this is wider, so I'm just going to kind of get it where I want my seam to go. I don't bother scoring this. I just kind of crease it with my fingers. You don't want this really tight around here because you do want whoever receives this to be able to get the belly band on and off. So leave a little bit. You don't want it falling off, but you don't want it to be too hard. Now I'm going to trim this. But for the moment, I'm just going to take some Stampin' Seal. You could use tear and tape as well. But you want something that will hold. And I'm just going to do a couple of lines of Stampin' Seal and then adhere that down. Again, you won't see that. And then I'm just going to take and trim that off, so because you don't need all of that. So now I've got my belly band, and it is easily you can get it on and off. Okay, so let's push it back up. I'm not going to put this right in the middle because I really want this to be looking like a seam. Now, On the Horizon has these great gates, these dies that create these great gates. So I have cut both pieces out. Let's put them there so you can see the gate that out of crumb cake. Now, if you wanted to, you could take and distress these a little bit. You could whitewash them. I haven't done that for this card because I just like the crumb cake. Now I'm going to take and use my liquid glue and just put a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm only doing it on about half because I'm just going to adhere this down, and it's going to stick up above my belly band. So just put a little bit of glue, making sure that it doesn't go up above where you're adhering it. You don't want it to stick to your card base. So just a little bit of glue down each of the pickets on the fence. It up. And again, we'll adhere this one. So it just looks like it has a fence. Now, there we go. The last thing is a sentiment. So this is going to be a birthday card. So I've actually used, this is from the Flowing Flowers stamp set, this happy birthday sentiment. And I have stamped it using Pool Party on just a scrap of Pool Party. And then I'm just fussy cutting. Now, again, I've said this before, when you're fussy cutting, you steer with the hand that doesn't have the scissors. So you're steering, in case my left hand, I'm steering with the paper. So this is what I'm moving the paper around with. It just makes it much easier to do your fussy cutting if you do that, as opposed to trying to steer with the hand that has the scissors in it. You may find, if you don't like to fussy cut, that by doing this, you may find it much easier to do the fussy cutting. All right, so I fussy cutted the happy birthday. And now I'm going to use some mini dimensionals. If I can find my, here we go, mini dimensionals. Now, I always have a hard time getting these mini dimensionals off as opposed to the regular size. So I use my Take Your Pick tool, and I just pick them up off with using the pokey end of your Take Your Pick tool. I just find that easier. For some reason, my fingers don't work real well with these little tiny dimensionals. And then you can just take and use the pointy end to get the backing off of them as well. All right, so then this is just going to go across the gate like that. Okay, now the last thing we need, these great pebbles enamel shapes. These are from the On the Horizon. They come in a package of 90 and 3 different colors. So you've got the brown, the darker gray, and the lighter gray. So I am going to use, let's some on this one. I'm going to use 3. So I use my Take Your Pick tool to get them off. I find that if I don't, I have a hard time with them. So I just make sure I get completely underneath them. And I'm just going to put 2 on that side. And let's put one of the darker ones. So just make sure you get completely underneath that. And then that one can go there. So I put 3 on. You can put more if you want. You could even put some of the brown ones on. They would go nicely. For some reason, I just thought the gray would be good. All right, so that's my double gatefold card, birthday card using the New Horizon or On the Horizon stamp set. I don't have a sentiment for this yet. I will put one in. On the Horizon stamp set and the Oceanfront stamp set. And then, of course, this lovely layering vellum for the belly band. Okay, and my belly band will just go at the bottom because then it makes it look like it's part of the scene. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions while you're watching this video or making the card, just leave a comment underneath the video. Or if you found your way over to stampingwithmelva.com and my blog post for this, where you will find all of the written instructions and measurements, you can leave a comment there. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love for you to get notified when I do videos or when I go live. And you can also, if you're on my blog, you can request my newsletter so that you can keep up with all of the news that I share and some of the tutorials. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Happy stamping. Bye.